Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Watch Thomas Destroy His Financial Future. I'm your host, Thomas Stewart, and today we're going to be taking a look back at my first 6 months of self-employment. Today I want to cover major milestone accomplishments, what regrets that I have, how my finances are doing, what about my family dynamics, the best and worst parts of this whole endeavor, what was unexpected, and what's next for me, and a lot more. So let's jump into it. First, a super brief background on my work history if you're not familiar with it. I graduated college with a computer science degree, then I worked as a software developer at a job that I didn't care for. Then I learned game development as a hobby for a few years. And then I got a job as a gameplay programmer at a really cool game studio and I loved it. But then I quit that job like 6 months ago and now I've been developing my own video games. Okay, so in the past 6 months, here are some of my major milestone accomplishments. I formed an LLC, set up a business bank account. I applied to publish on all major console platforms, launched a game on Steam. I then ported that game to launch on PlayStation and Xbox. I published 15 YouTube videos. I had 3 or 4 big collaborations with some fun big YouTubers like Blackthorn Prod. I doubled my amount of YouTube subscribers. I got accepted into the Unity Insider program. And now I'm close to finishing up my second game, Bridges and Docks. And I'm pretty proud of what I've been able to get done. Releasing a game and porting it to consoles is tough work, but I was able to do it while simultaneously continuing to upload to this YouTube channel, and I'm almost done developing my second game. Also while dealing with all of this business junk that goes around it. Okay, next I want to go over some questions that people asked me on Twitter. I posted on there about what y'all would want to know about my 6-month retrospective, and here's what you guys sent in. So first question is, how did the first 3 days of self-employment go? Now this is a great question because it's something that I thought about for a while. I did a lot of prep beforehand so that when that day came, that first day of self-employment, I was able to hit the ground running. I had a very detailed to-do list of everything that I wanted to do that first day, and most of it was like business setup, like getting a website and an email and getting all of that business junk taken care of. I also spent a lot of time coding those first few days and also setting up my task management system so that I knew exactly what features I had to work on in my game. It was awesome because every day felt like Saturday. I had been doing game development and YouTube on evenings and weekends for so long that now that I was doing it all day, every day, it felt like I was resting even though I was working. It was weird. And I immediately took advantage of the flexibility that my new work-life balance gave me. So I went to a coffee shop on day 2 and I got a lot of work done there. And it was great because I didn't have any meetings to go to and I was able to just pump out a lot of code. Okay, next question. Do I have any regrets or was there anything that was unexpected? Well, I'm making way less money than I used to, but I anticipated that. I'm investing into something that I believe will benefit my lifestyle in the long run. Something that I hadn't anticipated is how quickly I can actually develop features for my game. It's crazy how fast I can move when I'm uninhibited with distractions and meetings and I can just sit down and focus. The inverse of this is that I'm actually extremely slow at everything that's not game development. I'm slow at art, setting up store pages, testing on dev kits, video editing, literally everything that's not game development, I'm extremely slow at. Another thing that was unanticipated is the discrepancy in sales numbers amongst all of the different platforms. And because I signed NDAs, I'm not allowed to talk about specifics, but it's very interesting when you compare the sales numbers between Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. Okay, next question. I actually just grouped a lot of questions together because there were a ton of questions that were asking about finances. So a lot of people are interested in finances and for good reason. Questions about how much money I'm making, how much I saved up before I quit my job, and what my average monthly expenses are. There's so much interest in this that I'm actually going to break it off into a separate video. So my next video will be going over all of my thought processes leading up to quitting my job and how I actually budgeted for that. So stay tuned if you're interested in that video. And of course, the console platforms have non-disclosure agreements, so I can't disclose the sales numbers there, but I can disclose the sales numbers from Steam. So like in the past 3-ish months, I've grossed about $1,200 on Steam, and consoles have made more than that. I'm not yet at the point where my monthly sales are able to cover my average monthly expenses, but I'm hoping with a few more game releases, they will be able to stack on top of each other and we will get there eventually. Okay, so the final question on Twitter, and a few people asked about this too, is what my family life looks like. So what's it like being a dad and a husband as well as a full-time game dev? And also, have there been struggles with my wife or family since I quit my job? So I love talking about this stuff because for those who don't know, my wife and I just had a baby 3 months ago. One of the huge motivations for me was to quit my job in order to spend more time with my family and be around for my daughter and have that flexibility with my work hours. Maybe in a future video I'll bring my wife on and we can do like a Q&A with her to get her perspective on things. But long story short, she's been very supportive of me and my career transition. And not like in a go do whatever makes you happy kind of way, but she consistently tells me almost on a daily basis that she believes in what I'm doing and she thinks that I'll be able to build this into a sustainable business for us. So she's been awesome. I will say though, as far as family life, there has been a tremendous difference between before the baby got here and after the baby got here. And it's basically been split down the middle so far because I've been self-employed for 6 months and I had 3 months pre-baby and 3 months post-baby. And before the baby got here, I was clocking in every day at around 7 a.m., taking short lunches, going for a run, and I was able to fit a lot of work into one workday. Now I have a lot more interruptions. Diaper changes, nap times, feedings, all of that stuff. So I'm still trying to carve out as much work time as I can, but some of it has been interrupted by that. But I also love it. My wife is working part-time, so when she's at work, I am in charge of watching the baby, but we also have a lot of help. Usually either my mom or her mom will come over and they will watch the baby so that I can get some work done. Also, the sleep deprivation makes it hard to work, but that's why God created coffee and I slurp that down all day, every day. Also, something that I wasn't expecting is since my daughter has been born, I feel an even bigger fire lit under my butt to make sure that what I'm doing is successful. There's nothing like caring for a little human being that will make you want to work even harder to make sure that you have the flexibility in your work schedule to take care of your family and be around when they need you. Other than that, I would say that my main struggle family-wise is trying to maintain a healthy work-life balance. I thought that I would use my newfound work flexibility to be more present and to be around my family more and to not be glued at my desk all day. And that has been the case in some sense, but more often the reality is that I'm really trying to make this work so I spend more hours working than I did when I had a 9-to-5 job. So I'm constantly trying to remind myself that all the deadlines that I've set are arbitrary and I don't necessarily need to burn the midnight oil yet. And I haven't figured it out. I keep boomeranging between overworking and overworking. So those are the two things that I boomerang between. So if I ever figure it out, I'll let you know. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about is what are the best parts and the worst parts of being a solo full-time indie game developer. And I've touched on a few of these, but here's a concise list. So the worst parts first. The first is having arbitrary deadlines. I have to decide when things are due, and that means I always feel behind. Because what happens is if I ever catch up or get ahead, then I just shift all of my deadlines forward, and so I am always behind. Also, there's the low-key financial anxiety, which is not great. It's a little better now that I have some recurring revenue coming in from Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox, but it's still always hanging there. Another thing is that I have limited social interactions now. I don't have any coworkers to talk to, so I mostly have to make jokes to myself, but I've also got this guy, and him and I talk a lot, so there's that. One thing that keeps happening is my car battery keeps dying because I don't drive anywhere, so it just dies. And then finally, I would say that one of the hardest things is porting to consoles. It's not easy. It's a lot harder than publishing to Steam. I'm hoping my next release will go smoother because I already have everything figured out. I've done it once. I have the dev kit set up and everything, but it is a very large endeavor. Okay, now let's talk about the best parts of the last 6 months. I have complete autonomy over my time. I can start or stop working whenever I want. I can focus exactly what I want to focus on without any distracting meetings or coworkers pinging me for things. I have the creative freedom to choose what I work on, and that means that I get to work on things that I believe are very interesting and fun. I also get to make decisions for what features I want to implement and when, and how janky the code can be or how clean the code can be. And I do a little of both, and it's great. Another great thing is that I'm actually insanely productive when it comes to game development. I'm a much faster developer than I thought I was, and it's been cool to just let me sit down and crank through a bunch of code. And then finally being able to see my growth month after month has been really rewarding. I try not to pay too much attention to metrics, but it's been awesome seeing my YouTube subscriber count go up and being able to see my tanks game on console platforms and then seeing that recurring revenue trickle in. It's been really cool to watch. Okay, so the final thing I want to go over is what is next. I have a limited financial runway, maybe 6 to 8 more months, who knows. So I'm looking to release a few more games in that time. Next up I have Bridges and Docks, which should be released on Steam and consoles within the next month or two, so be sure to wishlist that right now. It's a really fun island procedural generation game where you get to place all of the land tiles either manually or using algorithms, and you can put animals and houses and bridges and all of this fun stuff, change the color scheme. It's super fun and addicting to play with. After that, I'm going to start working on my next game, which is going to be really cool. I've started talking to some publishers about it, and who knows if I'll partner with a publisher, but those talks are in the works, and I'm really excited for what that game is going to look like. Obviously, I'm going to be making more YouTube videos. Like and subscribe. So I want to continue releasing small scoped games in order to pad my back catalog of recurring revenue. If I'm able to launch Bridges and Docks in February, then that would be less than 4 months from complete beginning to publishing on Steam. I also have a very small micro game that I'm creating that's built off of my Tanks game engine that I haven't talked about much yet, but I've been doing it as a thing that I call Fun Fridays. So on Fridays I will work on this micro game, but I'm only spending a few work days on it and then I'll release it, and it's pretty fun. I think you guys will like it. So that's my 6-month self-employment retrospective. Thanks for listening to me ramble about my experience. If you want to support what I'm doing, you can do a million different things. You can buy Tanks But No Tanks on Steam, PlayStation, or Xbox. You can wishlist Bridges and Docks on Steam. You can like this video. You can subscribe to my channel. You can join my Patreon community, or you can leave an encouraging comment below this video that gives me a little boost of motivation. The next YouTube video about my budgeting practices should be coming your way shortly, so stay tuned for that one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.